Well, greetings, friends, and welcome to How to Become Spiritual, episode number 4. It's fun to think about these things together, 1,000 things that we could talk about, but here are some. I was remembering the other day reading, Barbara Brown Taylor wrote this in one of her early books, and it just awakened something in me. She said, so often when we pray, it's like we do in church. We talk to God and we say, Lord, hear our prayer. Lord, hear our prayer. We're doing all the talking. She says in 1 Samuel chapter 3, you got the little boy Samuel, and what he does is he says, speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. All right, so growth in the spiritual life is less about how to talk to God, talk to God, get God to do the stuff you want, but it's speak, Lord, your servant is listening. And when you listen, you got to be patient, you got to be humble, you got to be quiet, it takes time. Did a funeral for somebody recently. Somebody in his family said that he was the king of the pregnant pause. Like, I love that. You just pause, listen. When we get quiet, one of the reasons that we live in such a noisy world and we keep racket, TV on, something all the time, is that in silence you become aware of yourself. Hopefully you can come to learn that you become aware of the beauty of yourself, the image of God that is in you, the divine spirit that is there. But then you also become aware of just difficult, hard things that aren't that easy to deal with, shadows and so on. I love Thomas Merton. He's so good, right? Thomas Merton wrote, I am full of my own emptiness, yet ruined as my house is, you live there. Oh God. Like, I love that. You look inside and you can see brokenness and fears and all, but God lives there. And you have to be quiet and visit that place within to realize that God lives there. We say one of the guiding Bible verses for this series is Psalm 139. Search me, O God, and know my heart, and see if there be anything wayward in me. If I look inside myself, it's crowded in there. There are all kinds of ideas, voices, pet peeves, biases. They don't feel like biases, though. Like when it's your bias, other people have biases, and mine is great wisdom, right? We've been to begin to discover, like my irritability, what gets on my nerves, what throws me off balance. That's the thing always to look for. You're like, what throws me off balance? What gets me out of an equilibrium in my soul? That's something to be attentive to. The things, ways we judge, criticize other people, envy other people, whatever throws you off balance. Another thing that we want to look for inside are addictions. If I say addiction, of course, you immediately think about substances, but there are all kinds of addictions. Addictions can be to, shopping. Sometimes even good things can be addictive. Exercise, it can become addictive. All kinds of things can become addictive. What is it that just hooks your attention? Of course, my biggest worry always is, this thing, the smartphone, the stupid phone. It's a great thing. You might be watching this video on your phone. You can FaceTime your grandchildren. You can reach out in an emergency. It's a wonderful thing. Look up information that you need, but boy, it becomes addictive. And before you know it, you're just hooked in this thing. And you see people all the time, like they're checking their phone. I drove to Durham a while back, and I got about 30 minutes out of town and realized I'd forgotten my phone. My pulse was racing. We did this for years without a phone. I made the journey there and back. All was well, but we just get hooked. Life is not in here. God is not in here. If you're always available, like I'm available, if you're always available, then you're never available. You're never available to God. You're never available to others. Your political ideology can become a very serious addiction, and it feeds on itself, right? You talk to other people, they think the same thing, and pretty soon you're harumphing with a bunch of people. Things, we can become so attached to our things. We love our things. I want to say that the spiritual life, growth in the spiritual life is about letting go. It's not clinging to things, hanging on tighter. If I'm more spiritual, I'm going to hang on tighter. No, the spiritual person travels light. G.K. Chesterton said, angels can fly because they take themselves so lightly. We We want to learn to travel light. We're always letting go, even the things that are precious. And if you want to ponder this, just talk to some older person. They used to have a lot of things in a big house, but now they're reduced to something smaller. And they can tell you what really matters. It's not those things that they thought were so precious that they've let go. I'm glad to be rid of it. They want to see someone else enjoy it. One of the things, the topics we're going to get to is joy. How do we come by joy in the spiritual life? It's not by hanging on to things. A lot of times one aspect of joy is I have some precious things and I so dig seeing somebody else enjoy it instead of me, right? I was at the need and let me give it to this person and they'll enjoy it. I enjoy it even more when it's there. That's a piece of that. Contentment. What's the goal of the spiritual life? Is it happiness? That's tricky, isn't it? It's just kind of a mood. You can be deeply spiritual and unhappy, I think, because you're in an unhappy point in life. Somebody you love just died. Are you happy? I don't think so. The world's, if you live in Ukraine right now, are you happy? I mean, it's something else. Are you at peace? I don't know if peace is even the thing. Sometimes when you're at peace, you've kind of been lulled to sleep. You're not really being attentive to things of the world. I wonder about the word contentment, though. If that's a goal, Thomas Merton, again, wrote this: when you accept what you have, you see that all you have received is more than enough, and you are overwhelmed. Like, I love that. When you see what you have, it's more than enough, and you're overwhelmed by that. It's sneaky, though, isn't it? There can be a kind of prideful commitment. I've got this beautiful home and a beautiful second home as well, and I have fine wine in my cellar and beautiful furniture and so many. I am content. Or you don't have those things yet, and you think, if I just work 2 more years for these 3 more things, then I'll be content. It's a fool's logic, right? It's the devil's logic. There are people who have just next to nothing and they're so very contented, and people I know who have so much and they have no contentment at all. It's a huge amount of unease. It's a matter of letting go. In my emails that I'm sending out on this, I'm having an installment. I'm a little wary of it because I don't want it to sound prudish or whatever. But we need to be careful. The spiritual life is getting rid of some things, attitudes that I have, judgments that I have, negativity that I carry, right? But we also need to be careful about what goes in. What's coming into me? What do I watch on TV when I'm surfing the internet? What am I looking for? What am I seeing? What's being shot at me from these screens? They're trying to sell me. They're trying to get my money. Like, I know that. We know this. Conversations that you wind up in. Like, what is that? Things that you purchase. All of that becomes who you are. So the spiritual life, part of it is becoming attentive, like what's coming into me? What do I let into my world? What do I maybe not want to let into my world? Now the key in this is not to find your tribe of smug people who know the wrong things that everybody else is doing and you pass judgment on them. Like, that's the worst possible thing. Oh yes, those people over there. That's not the thing. Just being attentive, just being vigilant. The worldly things coming in to me. A racy novel. It might be really entertaining. Is that good for my soul? It's not criminal or deeply sinful. Murder and mayhem on TV, or it's maybe entertaining, passing time, a diversion, but is that really good for the growth of my soul? One day soon, I'm going to come out with an email talking about books. I know some of you want me to recommend books on the spiritual life. I want to talk about just books, period. If you're a reader, maybe it's a podcast, whatever it is that you read. I remember Thomas Merton again. Years ago, I was reading a wonderful book by Alan Bullock comparing Hitler and Stalin, like where they grew up, where they posed in childhood school photographs. It's haunting how much those two dudes shared in common. And I'm reading Thomas Merton at about the same time. He says, why do we read books about, and he named them, Hitler and Stalin. Like, where'd that come from? These are evil people. Maybe we should read about good people, noble people, inspiring people. Maybe we want to read some about evil so you're aware of how it works and you can maybe fend off some in your world. But also just, am I absorbing stories of noble lives, spiritual lives? I don't mean corny, sweet stuff necessarily. Some just courageous people who've done amazing things. Sometimes novel, book, TV show, you read something and it just breaks your heart. If your heart is broken, then your heart is broken open. And the grace of God can do something in there if your heart is broken. We're going to be talking in other sessions here about choices. We are responsible for who we are. It's so easy to feel like you're a victim of what's going on in the world around you. But we do have choices. I remember reading Henry Nouwen years ago. He wrote a beautiful book called The Return of the Prodigal Son. It's based on a Rembrandt's painting of the Return of the Prodigal. It's a wonderful book. I'm already recommending a book. One of the things he says in there is that gratitude is a choice. That every day in so many circumstances, you have a choice. You can be resentful, you can think, what do I deserve? What do I wish that I had? You can ask all kinds of questions, the very American culture, consumer kinds of questions. He said, or you can choose to be grateful. You just decide over and over, I'm going to be grateful in this moment. I'm going to be grateful in this moment. I'm going to be grateful in the face of this. It becomes a choice. Kate Bowler has a devotional book coming out early next year. We're actually going to use it as a congregational read here. I've been doing some advanced reading in it. One of the things she talks about is wonder. Wonder. You wonder over something. I don't mean can't figure it out, but wonder like, look at that, that's amazing. And it doesn't have to be a fabulous sunset over the Riviera. It can be, a bird outside your window, to show a child a dandelion and they've got wonder. She says that wonder is a choice, right? You can just stay busy and just never wonder, but you can make the choice. Like, I'm going to wonder, look at that dandelion. Like, wow, that thing's kind of amazing. It's just that the more that we wonder, it actually alleviates some of our anxiety, some of our self-absorption and so on. It's actually a beautiful thing. At the end of the whole series, we're going to talk about joy. I'm going to say that joy is not just do I feel it or not, but it's a choice. I choose joy. Stay tuned there. The other thing I just want to mention in closing is in the spiritual life, one of the things that you hope to become is holier. And that's a worthy goal. We do want to be holy. We want our lives to be cleaner, more pleasing to God. Your body's a temple of the Holy Spirit. Like you want to be holy. But boy, it can be hard to be holy. And for most of us, a lot of things are easy to get right. But then for most of us, there's something in us that's kind of intractable. Like I want to work on this and I work on it and I can't get better. I don't seem to be able to get better. It's just so frustrating. You hate it when that happens. I think for things that are intractable, that are hard, in terms of trying to be holy, and maybe some habit, some addiction that you have, whatever it may be, I think two things really matter. One is the baseline of the entire spiritual life is God's mercy. That's why you bother with the spiritual life. You're not going to get mercy at the bank. A lot of people can't even get mercy at home. But with God, there's always mercy. Church is supposed to be the place of mercy. If you have something that's intractable in your life, God has mercy. God understands. God's not, you better do better. God has so much mercy, overflowing. And then it takes time. Sometimes the change comes not in a day, not in a week, not in a year. It takes a very long time. And one day you look up and I've made a little progress on this thing that seemed intractable. It requires patience, trust in God over the long haul. Friends, I'm just so honored that you've taken the time to watch this, to be paying attention to the spiritual life. God is honored by that. I'm honored that you've taken the time with me, but God is honored when we do anything to try to be closer to God. So thank you for honoring God with me through this exercise. And stay tuned, we'll cover some other topics as we move along. Peace to you.